Welcome back to Beyond the Design, the podcast that goes deeper into the stories behind the spaces, the people who create them, and the journeys that connect us all through design. I'm your host, Craig Beaumont Flynn, and today's story is about love, bold choices, brownstones, and Brooklyn. My guests today are Jordan and Barry, also known as the Brownstone Boys, a dynamic duo whose story began with a spark, a chance meeting on a dating app, and a shared obsession with architecture and a dream that quickly turned into a 130-year-old reality. Jeez. Tell us about that. Jordan and Barry, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks so much for having us, Craig. We're so excited to chat today.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, it's great to have you. So let's just dive right into it. Let's get started with the cute little meet, 2 weeks of nonstop chatting before ever meeting in person. What was the initial spark between you two? Was there assessment? Making sure you know the book?
We met on an app, and we both met at a time in our lives that we were kind of like fresh out of other things and not really necessarily looking to get back into something else, which I guess is the best time to like
when you least expect it.
There.
Yeah.
It works. And so we weren't in a hurry, for one thing. And we were just both busy, and we met and we started chatting, and we chatted kind of nonstop. And eventually we were like, maybe we should meet in person. And so after a couple of weeks or so, we decided to do that. And so because of the nonstop chatting and the level of anticipation, and we were both really nervous to meet in person. So we both kind of have a similar story when it comes to how nervous we were on our walks over to the place that we finally met for a drink.
It was definitely my first time talking to somebody for as long as I did with Barry. But in reality, it was just because I was genuinely enjoying just like chatting with him, texting. We even did a couple phone calls, which was very rare at that time in my life. So I was a bunch of nerves, like going in to meet him. And I remember we decided on a local bar here in Brooklyn, and I was so nervous. And he texted me that he was already there. So he got there first. And
did you go around the block a few times?
I did some pace walking, just getting my nerves out. But then I was at the bar. It was fortunately a very comfortable bar and place that I had frequent quite a bit. And I remember opening up the back door and Barry sitting in a little corner on the back they had a backyard space. And I opened the door and there he was. And my eyes just lit up. He was even cuter than I thought he was going to be. So I was really excited.
You're kind of cute. Well, you bonded early over architecture and design, the love of design. Did either of you two imagine it would evolve into a shared career?
Never would we have ever imagined that.
No.
I went to architecture school. I wanted to be an architect all throughout high school, knew that was my path, and lasted about 2 years before I dropped out and got a business degree. I dropped out of the School of Architecture and went into software sales. So, I always loved architecture and design, and I'm really happy that I found my way back into it. But so for a while there, it looked like, there wasn't really hope for me to really do something that I'm passionate about, but I'm glad that I did. And Jordan has a similar.
Yeah, I fell into design by mistake. I had worked as a baker, putting myself through film school, and the guys that owned the bakery were expanding, opening up a second shop, and they needed help designing a kitchen for the second bakery that they were opening up. And they asked a couple of their employees to help design this kitchen, and it became such a passion project to me that I expressed to them after it opened up how much I loved it. And then they kindly referred me to an ice cream company that had plans of expanding. And I joined Ample Hills Creamery back when there were 2 ice cream shops. And they expanded in the course of me being with them into 20 shops all throughout New York. And they were opening up like fire, just one right after the other. And I just enthralled myself in this design and on commercial spaces. So I got super familiar with New York City codes, the process, the project management. And that's when me and Barry had met.
Yeah, all the fun stuff.
Yeah, for real.
Well, 6 months in, you bought your first home together, a 130-year-old brownstone. What was the moment like? Was it nerve-wracking, like your first meeting? Magical? Love at first sight? Or kind of a little bit of the both?
Jordan was probably more nervous than I was because I had been through the process a bunch of times. So after I graduated and went to software sales, loved architecture and design, decided to buy my first apartment and renovate it and really enjoyed that. And I lived there for a couple of years. Then I moved on to another place, bought it, renovated it, lived there for a couple of years. And when we closed on our place, it was my 9th closing. So I was really, really like loved real estate, loved designing a place with someone else in mind because I always planned, even though it was the place I lived in, it was my apartment, I was designing it because I knew I was going to sell it at some point. So I was kind of thinking about that future person, that future client that would be living there, would see it and want to purchase it. So I've been through it and I loved it. I loved the whole process. I loved the hunt for the real estate and then finding, and it's the pressure that you have to make an offer and see if you get it. And we actually lost a place before we found the place that we liked. We made an offer and didn't get it.
Yeah.
So we'd already been through it once. And I remember it was just a super hot summer and we were running around from open house to open house and squeezing in showings whenever we could. And this place I actually saw when Jordan wasn't with me. Sometimes he would be at work and I would be at work, but I would like take a few minutes off and go look at a place. And that's what I did for this. And I remember stepping into it and calling or texting Jordan immediately and saying, I found it. This is the house. I know it's perfect, because we really wanted something that we could make our own and that we could do a lot with, but had original features and original historic details that we could restore and make part of the design and part of the house going forward. So, and it had all those things. It needed a lot of work. All the original beautiful woodwork was covered in layers and layers and layers of horrible, gloppy, gloopy, drippy paint. But
Harry was like, this is the one.
This is it. I love it.
I was terrified, to be truthful with you. I was just getting to know Barry. I mean, we were so new in our relationship, but I had heard about all of his real estate and I had been saving for 16 years in hopes to buy my small apartment. And Barry was like, I remember on that bike ride we took throughout Brooklyn, and I think that's really when we discovered we shared the same passion of historical architecture. And he just proposed this idea and he was like, listen, if you want to put in your savings, I put in my savings, we could get a bigger place. And then I was like, is a brownstone possible? Because that was both of our dreams. And he was like, I think we could do this, but we're going to have to tackle a lot of the work ourselves. And I was like, sign me up. I'm ready to get my hands dirty. I had no idea that we were going to get this big of a project. But
and how dirty? And
exactly. I have no regrets. I mean, it made the Brownstone Boys.
And even though we, have experience with design, Jordan had his and I had mine, and going through projects and managing those, we never renovated, neither one of us, a historic home, and there were so many things that come along with that. So we were just looking for information wherever we could find it. And where we found the best source of information was other people's blogs that were going through the process, talking about what resources they used, talk about how they did things on a budget, who they found to help them and how they, solved certain problems. And we were really, that was the best source of information for us. Mm-hmm. And so we decided, as I say, Jordan's idea, and, didn't think it was as big of a deal as it became, but he decided we should put our journey out there and we should tell our story of our renovation and help others that are going through the same process as we did.
In all honesty, it was a sticker shock. I had no idea. We were getting back quotes from contractors and different artisans. And I had no idea because this information wasn't out there. So I started a blog in hopes that we could help some people that are going through the same issues that we're going with, and knowing what you need to be spending on electrical, what you need to be spending on plumbing. So that's where really the blog started from. And then quickly, right after we started it, a local newspaper here in New York called Brownstone asked if they can syndicate our blog and kind of use our posts and repost all of ours. And it put us in front of a larger community. And then we were getting questions left and right from people asking us about their own renovation. And we were giving out free advice for a good
year. We were almost finished our project.
And everybody sounded like they needed more help as we were learning more things. And then finally we asked somebody, do you want us to help you with your project? And they quickly said yes. We explained that we have no professional experience, but we're up for this. Barry and I worked full-time jobs while taking on our second, and it was on our third client that we quit our full-time jobs and then pursued Brownstone Boys full-time.
So is that when the moniker Brownstone Boys kind of came into effect and actually being?
It was actually from the very beginning.
Really?
From the moment Jordan asked me if I would want to start a blog about our project, he had that name in mind.
Really?
So that was always the name from day one before we even published our first blog post.
Since you've been on this journey and when you first bought this home, how has the community in Brooklyn and in the surrounding areas kind of taken a hold of this, of what you've done and what you've accomplished and continue to do?
It actually has been really special. And we use the word community a lot because we feel like we started a community around our project when we were going through it, and people were following along and asking us questions. And sometimes we would ask them questions and they would respond. And even on social media, we always felt like it was a community that we were building.
Yeah.
And then locally here in Brooklyn, we are also very much embraced, and we've also embraced the community, and we love living in the community. It's a big aspect of what we do. We try to give back as much as we can and do projects, and we love working on multi-generational homes. And anytime someone approaches us and is like, I live in this house, and my parents are passing it down to me, and my grandparents lived here. We love stories like that, and it's the type of projects we like to take on.
One of the biggest questions we always get asked is if we do work outside New York. And we have, but the demand in Brooklyn is keeping us really busy.
Right.
It's also like we fall in love with all of these stories of what brought people to New York, or why they were born and raised in New York, and what their families went through. And it's just so special to us that, we're happy to keep work close to home, because it's just like so many houses here need work.
Right. Have you also seen a influx of community spirit in saving the architecture and the history of Brooklyn? And it's such a unique place. I used to live in Manhattan, and I had friends that lived in Brooklyn Heights, and it has such an essence to it.
Yeah.
Have you seen more people saying, we need to keep this, don't sell it, don't bulldoze and build big,
For sure. We get reached out all the time about people asking us, like, they're in the middle of a renovation. They're not working with us, but can I give you guys these moldings or this trim so that you guys can repurpose it? Because that is the ethos of everything we do, is just maintaining this craftsmanship that was built over 100 years ago and giving it a new life.
We also hear from people who there's like a house next to them that's for sale. And this has happened multiple times, where like, there's a house next to us for sale. Can you please help someone get it so that, we know that it's beautiful, it's going to be preserved, and some developer isn't going to come in and scoop it up and rip everything out and make it more modern. So yeah, it is really great. I think that there's more attention to that now than even there was 5 or 10 years ago, even definitely more than 20 years ago, that people really appreciate the history and the detail that went into these homes, and they want to preserve them as much as possible.
If your love story were a renovation tool, what would it be? A power tool, a power drill, a level, a trusty measuring tape?
Actually, I think our relationship would be a level. Barry and I are not only business partners, but we're life partners. We are with each other 24/7, literally. And that takes a lot of mental stability. And we go through a lot of issues. So I think a level is a perfect tool to kind of describe that balance of everything that we have to kind of balance together.
And
I love
patience.
that. I agree with that.
And patience.
Yeah. And listening, I think you have to lean forward, listen, make sure you're listening.
Yeah.
You're with each other 24 hours a day.
Yeah. You hear that, Barry? Listen.
What?
Favorite Brooklyn brownstone detail: ornate stoops, pocket doors, or tint ceilings?
I've been having a moment with stained glass recently that I'm really loving all over again.
I'm going to say the stoop, because the stoop it's such a unique feature to a Brooklyn brownstone. And it's also an aspect of community that's involved in it, because the stoop is where you kind of sit and hang out and talk to your neighbors, people walking by, your neighbors that are coming in and out of their homes. And we actually all have a backyard as well. And we have a stoop. And if we're going to have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and sit outside, it is always going to be in our stoop.
True.
Because you get to be outside with your neighbors and you get to talk to people walking by. Our stoop was also a super important thing to us during COVID, because that's where we would hang out with our friends. We would sit at the top. We had birthday celebrations there. They would sit at the bottom. And so I think it's a really special feature.
We love it so much. We actually got married on our stoop this past year. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. What's your go-to drink on your stoop? You said coffee and wine.
Mine is an iced coffee with oat milk.
I'm going to go with a martini. I love a good gin martini. With
Blue
olive.
cheese olives?
I love a blue cheese olive.
There
I
you
will
go.
take the blue cheese olives if you have one. Yes.
Absolutely. All right. Well, renovating your home became a foundation for your relationship. What did you learn about each other through that first project? Especially, I mean, you're given being with each other 24 hours a day and also learning a process of a 130-year-old project. What did you learn about each other?
Yeah.
Well, if you really want to get to know someone very, very well, you should renovate a house with them, because we really got to know each other. And it was at a point in our relationship, because it was very early on, that is how we got to know one another. And you learn about, what
Each
it
other's
isn't,
quirks.
what people's quirks are, what's important to them, like how they handle problems, how they respond to difficult situations. You get to you celebrate little successes and victories with them. So there's so much that we got to learn about each other through the process. And it was, for us, it was, I think, not that it wasn't hard. There's definitely a lot of really difficult moments, but I think it was really fun process to go through, and we really enjoyed it and look back on it really fondly, even though it was, had difficult moments.
Yeah. I learned about Barry that his level of detail is really almost on the OCD level. But for me, it was a perk. I was like, wow, he just really cares to every little attention to detail that I didn't know before we went into this renovation together. And now looking back on that almost 7 years later, it is something that I think that is your strongest suit in our business as well. It's just the level of detail that I'm really grateful, because mine's not the best. I'm the more creative one. So I think we balance each other really well in that sense.
That's fantastic. Well, there you go. The level.
It's coming back.
Plays. As you mentioned, you documented your complete journey, and it really resonated with people doing the same thing and asking questions. Why do you think your story really connected with so many? Is it because it was not scripted, it was real, and it was the two of you and not a big production?
Yeah. I want to believe that. We always try to be as authentic as possible. And the world of social media is crazy, and we were putting out some pretty big learnings authentically. And I think that that's how we not only grew our social media presence, but we also grew in our own relationship, but we also grew with our community. And some of our followers still to this day have been saying they've been following the entire journey because of that whole chapter that we went through together at the beginning.
And I think we were always saying things that no one else was saying too, particularly around what things cost,
Right.
What budgets need to be, how to figure out a way to do things on, with less funds. And we still work with our clients that way. And that's, we also included a lot of that information in our book as well. It's always been on our blog. As we go forward, we're very transparent about things like that. So I think people really enjoyed that, and just kind of, we answered questions that they weren't finding the answers other places.
True. A lot of digging, and you had to go through it in real time too. It wasn't something that was produced. It's like, oh yeah, we'll hide this cost from them. It's actually, here it is, sticker shock.
Yeah.
Well, your first client, what was it like when you first got your first client and they said yes?
I was so nervous. I just remember I was like, wow, we're not even done with our renovation.
We're almost done with our slow working on it.
And here we are taking on just a client that was so special. And we're both overachievers. So I think we had a lot of anxiety about going into a project with a lot of uncertainty that we couldn't control. But we told them it was going to be a journey. And we were just very upfront with them and be like, please, let's hold each other's hands through this process. We will get through it. We're going to have great days. We're going to have some not so great days, but we're going to get through this together. And I think the word partnership is really important. And we just explained to them that this is a true partnership. And yeah, looking back at that, I mean, we miss them dearly. We still see them. And we're so grateful that they took a risk on us, because really, I think it was because of them that we fully have a business. They put out their experience working with us, and it was all positive. So yeah, I really miss them. I'm very grateful for Cynthia.
Are they in the neighborhood, in the hood?
Yeah, they're in the next neighborhood over. So, and also their renovation was right in the middle of COVID, where the city was required every job site to shut down in New York. They also were having twins in the middle of the renovation. So Barry and I were through so many challenges during this renovation. And I remember a point like 6 months into the reno, it's like, Barry, if we get through this, we are going to be A-okay and we're anything, because there were so many challenges faced during that first renovation of ours.
It made you wiser. You learned from it.
Yeah.
So you've had quite a few projects thus far. How do you choose which ones to take on? And what's your secret to keeping your relationship strong while running a business together?
Two big questions. So the first one is, we're fortunate at this point. We get a lot of inquiries for projects, but we really love looking for projects that are a good fit with the type of work that we like to do. So we love working in historic homes. We love when there's historic elements of it that can be restored and mixed in with the modern design of the house that we're building in. So modernizing it for today's living. So that's important to us. We also look for unique features in a house. So if, we did a house where there was like a center courtyard in it that was really amazing. It was a carriage house restoration. We're doing right now that has, the top floor of the house is very unique, and we're doing a lot of glass partitions, even though the bottom floor is very historic. So there's a cool mix there. So yeah, just so, ticking those boxes of having those historic elements and unique aspects of the home. And we look for a positive relationship with a client, someone that we know we're going to work really well with. All of our projects take, over a year, I guess, to finish. Sometimes pushing 2 years, because they are pretty big. So we know we're going to be with somebody for a long time. So we try to make sure that it's a good fit from that perspective too.
Right. Have you ever had a client come to you saying, rip out all the molding, rip out, and just want to modernize it to an extreme that's not, it's like ripping out your heart?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, they always bring that to our attention after we sign up with them. I learn about the project initially. They're like, by the way, we really want to tear out all the original details. It's a compromise. Listen, Barry and I do not want to create period pieces in our homes. And some of the stuff we have an understanding, it might not be with the modern lifestyle that some of our clients desire to have. However, that's where Barry and I's design ethos is really important. And we have really long conversations with our clients about the importance of juxtapositioning both the old and the new. And there's a way that it can be done really tastefully. It just comes with some imagination, some creativity, and the clients always need to see like a rendering. So we spend a lot of time in that design phase before we get to building to show them how all the moldings could look with new, beautiful furniture and modern light fixtures, or vice versa. But I think there's always a way of marrying both of them together. It's just really a conversation, an educational moment that our clients need to hear.
When you go through that process of onboarding a new client, do you also take on projects of elements that you have not completed before?
Like different features that we haven't done before.
Features, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And we always enjoy that. So we sort of threw ourselves into it and learned as we were going through the process, pretty much in everything that we've done, from our house and doing our personal home to in each and every client project. So yeah, we definitely don't shy away if there is a aspect of the project that we've never done. In fact, it might even make it more likely that we take it on, because it gives us the opportunity to figure it out and learn how to do it.
Right. So now that you're completed with your own home, do you sit back and think, now we need to change that?
Yes.
We need something new.
Funny that you should ask that, because we're actually in the middle of renovating our entire parlor floor. It's really hard being a designer and working on some beautiful spaces with our clients that have really great imaginations and design choices, and then creating the beautiful things in their homes and coming home to our home, where Barry and I were not designers when we really first started our home. And because of that, 7 years later, we were wanting to change everything all the time. So our house is kind of a rotating showroom where for ourselves, we will renovate something, change it up 3 months later. But I think that keeps it exciting for us. As much as it's a problem living in a renovation,
Right.
at least there's always a project to work on.
So who's the design risk taker and who's the voice of reason?
That's a really easy question. I am definitely the voice of reason, and Jordan is definitely the design risk taker.
Yep.
In fact, we always joke that when we started, before we even took on clients, and even a little bit after we took on clients, the joke was that I love any shade of gray and white that you can imagine. It's kind of where I lived in the world of design, and Jordan really liked bold color, and it's changed quite a bit now, but
every house now has color on it, which shows you where Barry has progressed over the years.
I do all the business, or most of the business stuff, and the invoicing and the taxes and things like that. I deal with our contractors a lot, and we both tackle the design together for projects. But Jordan is probably a little bit more the risk taker and the bold color person than I am.
I also play the role of a therapist during the renovation. So when our clients are like upset or, feeling a little sad, I'm right there with them. And Barry and I both wear our projects on our sleeve. And the therapy part is something I didn't realize we were really becoming part of during when we signed up for Brownstone Boys.
Yeah, it's a part of the industry and part of the design field, because you get so personable with your clients. You know every aspect of their life and how they sleep, what side of the bed, what's in their drawers. So, when you're working with clients that are couples, it is a therapy session sometimes, because you have to balance their likes and wants as well as the design perspective and goal.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the most surprising material you've fallen in love with during a renovation?
Surprising.
Is there a go-to for you? Is there a stamp, a Brownstone Boys stamp that you try to incorporate into each project?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. There's one thing that we actually did in our house when we were renovating it. We got a vintage door, and we altered it and cut out a big panel in the front, and we put in like a textured glass, and we used it as the door to our guest bathroom. And all of our clients love it, and we painted it like a green, like a bright green color. All of our clients really love it, and almost every single one of our clients asks for that door.
We put it in a different
their
location,
house.
usually in their house. Really cool.
And so we've done it a bunch of times, like probably done that door 20 times.
I would say for us, I'm most proud of the tile work in a lot of our projects. I think it's something that we spend a lot of time on, our tile choices. And I'm really proud of all of them and all the different variations that we've used throughout. There's a lot of bathrooms in brownstones.
Yes.
And I try to make each and every one of them unique and special. And looking back kind of as a collective, as a whole, I think the tile is something that I'm definitely proud of.
I think a couple of other things that are pretty signature to a lot of our designs is we use a lot of moldings. We put wall moldings in spaces, sometimes unexpectedly. So obviously it, feels right at home in a brownstone, but we've also done it in like modern apartments to give the modern apartment kind of like a characterful makeover. And so we've done that a couple of times too. We've also put in fireplace facades, like we had vintage fireplace facade. Sometimes, obviously clearly not working, but just as a way to bring in character as well. So we really, I think one of the boils down to one of the finer parts of our design ethos is just marrying historic looking elements in that timeless design with modern design.
Has there been a project that you can think of where you had to eliminate an element, a design element, because of just time has been abused? It had maybe termites or wasn't going to sustain that part of the design, or just being reincorporated in that just kind of tore out your heart that you had to push it aside and get rid of it?
Yeah, that happens in almost every project. It's
Yeah.
really sad when you're working in a historic home. And usually the reason is that, we're really, and we also feel good about this in a big way because we're modernizing the house and we're setting it up for its next 100 years of life. And a lot of the houses that we start work on are really kind of falling apart. And if someone didn't step in and do something, they probably wouldn't be there that much longer. And we want it to remain a house. We want people to want to live in it, and people just live differently now than they did. And one really big example of that is in the 1800s, when all these homes were built, the kitchen would have been tucked away on the ground floor where the ceilings are really low, and all the smells would not be in the living area, and it was just a much different time. And now people want their kitchen up on the parlor floor with their living space so that they can, it can be part of the entertaining. But, with the 1800s, you wouldn't have wanted your guests to see the kitchen and all the things in the kitchen. So that's a big deal. And moving the kitchen to the parlor floor in a location where it would not have originally been, something's got to go. Something's got to move. And so we end up having to move things a lot of times to make way for something like that so that the house can fit into a modern lifestyle. And it is really sad sometimes. As many things as we try to keep, like Jordan said earlier, we're not trying to create a period piece. We're not trying to make the house look like it did in the 1800s. We're trying to make it look like a house that respects its history, but also fits in with
adapts to the modern
today's
life.
life.
Yeah.
A new lease on life, another 130 years sometimes, I'm sure. Brooklyn, for those that haven't been to Brooklyn, seems like a backdrop, a movie backdrop. It has a feel that has played a part in your story, a character in your story. How does the borough influence your design choices?
Oh, I mean, I'm influenced every day just walking down the street in spring and summer, biking everywhere. There is just so much diversity, so much beautiful architecture, so much life in New York in general that I just am constantly inspired. And we're so fortunate that we live in a city that offers just so much variation, whether that's textiles or beautiful colors or buildings. You can just look somewhere and get inspired by anything.
Right.
Really.
I mean, New York has such a huge and collective design community. How have you been involved in that? And has the community accepted you with open arms?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We get as involved as we can, for sure. We actually go to multiple events tonight. We're actually going to 2 events tonight. As soon as we're done here, and it's great because we get to talk to people. We get to understand, that we've never taken one interior design course or class. We've never even really, as far as like the way we invoice and how we structure our business, like we've been on our own. So being part of the design community and asking questions and learning how other people do it and having conversations with them about how they handle this situation and that situation, what software platforms are they using? And, we really had to figure all that stuff out on our own. So being part of the community here has been really important, and having really amazing partners and resources and understanding where to source things from and what's available out there is, it's how we can bring value to our clients. And so the events we're going to tonight kind of help us with all of that. We get to see our community. We get to understand where we can source things from and get inspired to put together beautiful designs for our clients. So it's been really great. And we also have all these wonderful artisans that we work with here, and they're plaster workers and wood restorers and stained glass restorers. And we call them our renovation family because they've been with us for a long time. And they're doing something that's a dying art that not many people want to do anymore, unfortunately, because it's hard work. And we take them along with us into every project and try to bring them into as many things and send as many other people our way, even if it's not our project, their way, even if it's not our project. And so, it's a really wonderful community in a lot of ways, and we're happy to be part of it.
Also, just to piggyback off what Barry was saying, is we are so lucky we live in a city with so many wonderfully talented designers that I love introducing myself at events. But the world of social media has also been such a great tool and source for us, meeting other creators, other designers. And that way we really love when they come into town, into New York, for something, and we have a lunch, and then sometimes they end up staying at our house the next time they're over in New York. And some of our dearest friends now we've met through either the design community here in New York or through social media.
So how has your personal and professional growth been shaped by those within the design community and outside the design community?
I think very much so. Like I said before, we've learned so much from other people in the community that we've talked to. When we started what we were doing with the first 10 clients, I think it was completely invented by us. Like with everything we did,
our contract was like a paragraph.
Our contract was a
full
paragraph.
Renovation and a paragraph contract.
The way we were invoicing and how we were billing and how we were working with clients and trade accounts and things like that. Like we really didn't know what we were doing. But we were figuring it out, and we were making mistakes and learning from our mistakes. But I would say it was like we were many projects in before we really felt like we were part of the community in a way that we could ask these questions and learn from our peers. So I think they've influenced at this point, now that we keep losing track of how many houses we've done, but I think we're like 34 to 35 to 40, something like that. Wow. I think we really have taken a lot of that advice to heart, and we've changed so many things about how we do things, and some things are the same too.
But even like starting a business and running a business is just like a renovation. There's always going to be issues to fix. There's always things to tighten, and I love the journey. It's there's some way better days than others, but it's a journey. And I think if it was just a perfect thing that would go without any issues, it wouldn't be exciting for us. And we want to keep doing it. And I think that's why we're so busy. It's just because we're so passionate and we really love what we're doing.
So at what time in this journey did you say, okay, we're going to do a book? You had a book come out last year, For the Love of Renovating.
We did.
What was the inspiration for that book? And did you put a lot of your life lessons into it?
That came at a wild time. So we actually had a book agent reach out to us, and it was somebody from my previous life working at the bakery that she helped the guys that owned the bakery write the 2 cookbooks. And she reached out and she's like, guys, I've been following your journey and I'm just blown away. You guys need a book. Let's have a coffee. We had a coffee, and she proposed this book, and we were like, oh my gosh, not us. And then we went home and we're like, you know what? Our book just needs to be an extension of our blog, because at that time our blog kind of went on this little hiatus, and we're like, we miss writing and we miss this. So like, let's put all of our learnings into this resource and get it published. And yeah, that was a wild year writing our book. It came out last June, and it's just been such a cool experience.
We started the process probably a couple of years ago now, because it takes a while to get through all of that. Mm-hmm. But it was really amazing. I mean, we really kind of downloaded everything out of our heads that we know about the entire process of renovating a house from beginning to end into this book. And we just thought it would be so cool to have this physical thing that contains all of that information that we knew. And the way we wrote it really follows the process that we go through with clients, starting from finding the fixer-upper. A lot of our clients are, we help them find the house. So they're looking for a house to renovate. They have a growing family, and they feel that the only way they're going to get something that works for their lifestyle and reflects who they are is to find a place and go through the process. And so it's, what to look for in that fixer-upper, what's the red flags you should look for, how to figure out budgeting, buying the house and the renovation. And then it goes through like organizing the renovation, who's involved, what what parties you have to talk to, and then designing the whole house and going through each space, what to think about. We get pretty technical. So we love talking about the pretty stuff, but we also talk about like, how much room do you need for the toilet between the vanity and the tub? So there's a lot of very technical information.
And we put a lot of numbers in the book. So for anybody like myself that needs that information, being like, well, how much should I be spending? All of those numbers are in there.
What was the most meaningful part of writing the book for you?
I think it's just I don't know. We never thought we could write a book when we were approached about it, and the book agent helped us write a proposal for it. We had fun writing the proposal, but she sent it to publishers, and she set up based on that a bunch of conversations with a few, like 5 or 6 publishers or so. And we thought going into those conversations, they were going to ask us, "Who do you think you are? Why should you write a book? What experience do you have?" And that's how we were expecting to be perceived.
Yeah.
And it was actually quite the opposite. Like, they were like, each publisher was trying to sell us on why they should be the publisher for our book. And we're like, this is crazy. Like, who would have thought this would happen? So I think that's a really special thing about it, is just like, that I think in the design industry, especially because there's so many people who end up some long road to get them there. And it's not usually the traditional, I went to design school and I got a job out of design school, then I just started my own firm. That does happen, but there's probably more people who just end up in it. And that was the case for us. But you're kind of left with a little bit of imposter syndrome, because you're, calling yourself a designer when you didn't go to design school it's a hard thing to get used to. And so being able to have a book and have that kind of like box checked for our careers as designers is a really cool thing.
Absolutely.
So helps alleviate but not eliminate the imposter syndrome.
Right. You'd be surprised the amount of people that we've had on this show going into our 4th year, the ones that have not gone to school professionally to seek a career in the design industry.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably about 70%.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
No.
We have, sounds
They
right.
just kind of fell into it, and someone told them to do it because they had a great eye or knew how to do something and liked what they did to their own home. So there's a lot, 70% of that. So is there a book number 2?
We hope. We're really busy with a lot of things, but one of the things that we would love to do is write another book. So it is not.
This book is very, For the Love of Renovating is very technical, which is very much me and Barry. But I would love to do a design book, just like beautiful imagery of our projects in New York. That really excites me. So,
but with that said, for the Love of Renovating, we wanted to do with that is marry the two together. So it is very technical, but it's also a coffee table quality design book. So we thought there aren't a lot of books that do both.
Right.
But yeah, maybe the next one might focus on a little more design, a little less. But we have some ideas we're excited about.
Oh, look forward to that. Well, you've built a team, a business, and a platform. How do you stay grounded and keep joy at the center of it all, especially being with each other 24 hours a day?
It's hard.
It is hard. It's a struggle. It's something that we have to be aware of every day. But we do try to do things for ourselves, both as a couple and individually. When you own your own business, you can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. So we try to, consciously make sure that we're not doing that. So we make time to cook dinner together. We make time to go to dinner and go to shows and movies. We really love to travel as well. So we definitely a few times a year, go somewhere fun and just take time off.
And it's also very important for us to have our own separate time. So we'll schedule time throughout the week that we're like, go on a walk on the reservoir. I'm going to go on a bike ride, and then, we'll come back together.
And I think that's even true for work stuff. It's nice for us to spend time in our hobbies and things alone, but we even need like space within work. So, sometimes Jordan will kind of divide and conquer, and I'll have a few meetings to go to, and he'll have a few meetings, and we'll reconvene at the end of the day. And we try to do that sometimes too, just so we can. It's also at this point in our business, we need to divide and conquer. But at the same time, it also gives us a little bit of ownership over certain things.
Yeah. And the other thing that we weren't expecting when we signed up for this was now we have a team of 5. And that's a whole nother job within itself, is to make sure that they're set up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And we love our team, and we really couldn't do what we're doing right now without them in their roles. But it's still a full nother job for me and Barry to make sure that they're as present as they possibly can be for each of our projects.
True. You have to managing people is a
job.
It's sometimes a lot more work than one anticipates.
Yep.
If you had to choose one city to do a home, where would it be?
Well, outside of New York,
yes,
it would be. I think that I might choose Amsterdam. I think there's just a lot of really cool houses, and they have, it has its own like really unique story.
I love that. Well, I grew up in Las Vegas, and no, I do not want to work on a house in Vegas, but the Southwest is really fascinating. I would love to do a ranch house somewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I used to live in Vegas.
Really?
Years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Summerlin kid.
Ah, okay. I lived, I'm drawing a blank. It's been so long. I lived where all the old crime bosses used to live, near downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Charleston, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, I went to Las Vegas Academy on Charleston.
Okay. Yeah. I'm drawing a complete blank of where I used to live. I blocked it out.
Charleston, though. I was also at Charleston all the way up, though. Charleston Rampart.
What's the one DIY project you'll never do again?
Ooh, I say this every time, but we keep coming back to is paint stripping. I mean, every single time, going back 7 years, I'm like, this will be our last time we ever do this. And then we're still doing it.
We've gotten better at it, though,
yeah.
For the years. But a lot of our projects have wood restoration, which includes paint stripping. But it's a tough job, and it's a mess.
So, dream project: brownstone in Brooklyn, beach bungalow in Montauk, or A-frame in the Catskills?
Ooh, A-frame in the Catskills sounds fun.
I think I would choose an A-frame in the Catskills too, because we've done so many brownstones in Brooklyn. And beach bungalow sounds fun, but A-frame sounds better.
Yeah, sounds fun.
So I see your assistant coming in and out of the picture. His name's Zuko, right?
This is Zuko, who is literally, he's been in and out of this conversation. Now he's sound asleep. So,
does he have a favorite room or corner in the house?
Wherever dinner is being served.
Food.
And it doesn't even matter where. So right now, because our parlor floor is under construction, his food bowl's in the guest bathroom, and doesn't care. He's fine as long as the food is in the bowl.
So being together for so long, how has that changed your perspective on home and partnership?
Oh, that's a great question. I think home is a partnership, and home is really a take on who you are as a person. And it takes time to create your home. So I think our problem when we first did our house, we weren't including our personality into our home. And I think that's why this has led to a parlor 2.0, as we call it, is because it's taken us 7 years to really develop who we are as a couple, as homeowners of this home that we want to leave our footprint on, to design a space. So I think design comes with time and home comes with time.
You agree, Barry?
Did I say something wrong?
I was going to say something, but I felt like that was so good that I shouldn't, but I will. I think that our homes are probably one of the biggest things that we have to express ourselves through. Design, I mean, definitely we have our clothing and everything that we wear. But I mean, our home is like really, even more of a thing that we have that we can express ourselves. And so being able to do that ourselves, and being able to help our clients do that as well, to create something that is like truly unique and truly theirs, and something that's just a perfect, fits like a glove for them, is really fun to be part of that process. And I think that, there are people who go through the process and become addicted to it.
Yes.
Because you just love creating, and, and especially when it's something as important and personal, and intimate as someone's home. And then there's people who do it and never want to do it ever again. So that's, that's totally different. But I think a lot of people do it. A lot of our we have had clients that are like, do you guys, after we go through the whole process with them, they're like, you guys, are you hiring? I would love to like keep working with you and doing this. And we always say, absolutely not. But it is interesting to see how much they enjoyed it, even with the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride that it is, that they want to do it again and now make careers out of it. And that's happened more than once with us, with our clients. So I think that's
must tell you that you're doing something right. You're giving the right information, and people, there's a trust factor, and they're trusting you.
Partnership. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What's on the horizon for both of you and for the Brownstone Boys?
Well, this June, we're coming out with our first line of rugs, which is really exciting. We're partnering with a local company here in New York called New Story that does beautiful rugs, all handmade in India. And our collection is called Gilded, and it draws inspiration from OG architecture in brownstones that we found over the years. So there's some really beautiful design, but also very like historic colors, beautiful colors. And we're just really excited for this collection to come out.
But I will just add to that, they're not stuffy. They, just like all of our design, they kind of marry a modern aesthetic and that historical like inspiration. And so we're really excited about them. They came out very, very nice. They took a long time to go through the process to design them. A lot of weeding out the to the perfect collection that we feel like really represents who we are and the inspiration and something people were going to love. And so we're really excited to get them out into the world.
Yeah, and aside from that exciting thing, we are really, this is the time where all of those projects from our business learnings are in full swing. So there's 9 full gut renovations right now, all with a unique story that each and every one of them are just so beautiful. Tell a story, relive the history of the home that we're all really excited for.
All within Brooklyn?
Brooklyn, and we're actually doing our first Upper West Side project as well, which is exciting. 5-story townhouse.
Wow. That would be fun. A lot of learning curve for you guys?
Yes, for sure. With an elevator.
So it's our first elevator.
Our first elevator.
Oh, wow. What's your number one piece of advice for turning fear into excitement?
I think that just go head first for it. I mean, when we decided to quit our jobs and not have health insurance or steady income and to start our own business and that be it. I mean, it just took, we couldn't let fear stop us. We couldn't let fear get in the way of that. And I'm glad we didn't, because, it was scary and there were a lot of difficult things we had to get through, but we just kind of like ran for it head first and didn't let the fear get in the way. And I feel like we have to do that on a regular basis with different things that come up with owning a business. So I think that, like not letting fear be in the driver's seat, I think is the most important thing in whatever you're doing. If it's a business or just personal life, wouldn't want that to stop us or anyone else.
So going back 7+ years, what are you most surprised about that you've learned along the way from each other and yourselves in this journey that you could tell yourself now from that first date?
That's big question. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't think we've always been along for this ride, and not that, I say that as if we don't have anything to do with it and we're just along for the ride. There's a lot of things we actively had to do to get here, but it's also just swept us up into the current and taken us, and we just kind of let it go where it goes. And it's been a really awesome ride, and we've done a lot of really, really cool things. And I think that the one thing that I would say that we're probably still working on a little bit, although I think we've gotten a little better, is we don't really take the time to celebrate. We always want something else. There's always some other thing that we're focused on, that we don't really think about the fact that all of the other things that we had goals for, we've achieved them and moved on from them.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we really take the time to kind of think about that and consider it as much, because if we look back to where we were 7 or 8 years ago, we wouldn't have even imagined that we wouldn't have been able to even come up with the goals and the dreams that we later came up with and achieved at that time.
It's very true.
So I think just taking that time to, to celebrate some of the victories and to really let it sink in kind of how far we've come. And at this point, 7 or 8 years ago, we couldn't even dream up the things that we were able to do. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10? Because
I really think we're just getting started, to be honest. And I would say it's applying that 2 weeks that it took us to meet in person, which tells me something that we need to apply to where we are right now. And that is just enjoy the moment and breathe into the moment and really get to know not only each other more, but like our clients on a larger scale and our projects more intimately, which is really exciting for me. It's something I'm going to apply myself to.
So who was the instigator after 2 weeks saying, let's meet?
I think it was
Was it me?
It was Barry.
Yeah,
it was Barry. I could have talked for a couple more days.
Where do you see Jordan and Barry and the Brownstone Boys in 5 to 10 years? What is it that you want to achieve?
I mean, I think it's funny. I just said that, we couldn't even think of our goals. We wouldn't have never have even imagined them. And maybe that's happening now, but I think right now, the things that we're focusing on, because it is new for us still, is product and licensing deals. We had a line of light fixtures that came out toward the end of last year. That all came out really beautiful. We have the line of rugs that's coming out in a couple of months. We have some wallpaper and tile that's coming out later this year. And I think that we really see, we'd love to become more of a national brand. And we'd love to
figure out a way to tell more brownstone stories all across US, even though brownstones are so hyper local. Just because the history and the craftsmanship and also the humans and the many lives that these houses have had. That's my favorite part about social media is we get to tell our own story about these homes. And if there's a way to resonate it on a larger scale, sign us up for any time of the day.
And we love telling those stories. And we have thought of how we could do it. We started with our blog. We had an Instagram account very shortly after that. We're still very active on, and we feature all of our projects there. We've always, I think, one thing that's kind of unique about us is we take people through the whole process. Mm-hmm. We give regular updates. I think a lot of designers just put their finished photography and their finished projects out there, but we really talk about every single thing that happens in the project, from the plumbing and the HVAC stuff to the beautiful tile and paint colors and kitchen designs. And so we tell all those stories. And then we've been focused on YouTube quite a bit too. So it gives us a little bit of a longer format. And we have a new series that we just came out with. We call Bagels with the Boys, where we go and talk to someone in the community who has an interesting story or a beautiful home, or one we just did was a gorgeous mansion in Bed-Stuy here, where this couple bought it 30 years ago and turned it into a B&B. And we get their favorite bagel order, which is sometimes a little weird and crazy. And we have a bagel with them and talk about where they like to get their bagels. Then we do a house tour. So we love telling stories like that, and we're always thinking of new ways to do it.
My partner says, my coffee drink is like a book. So what type of bagel? What type of schmear?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a veggie cream cheese kind of guy.
Veggie cream cheese, everything bagel.
There you go.
No, I'm sesame bagel.
There you go. Well, any final words for listeners who are ready to fall in love with their home, or maybe with each other through design?
I mean, first of all, like if you're sitting around and you're dreaming up doing something in your home, and whether it be something out of necessity because of functionality or something just to make it more beautiful, get in there and do it. I mean, that's one of the big goals with why we do what we do, is just to empower people and to help them have the courage that they need to move forward.
And I would just say, patience A, but B, inspiration can come from anything and anywhere. So I'm very motivated by music. So I love creating a playlist that how I want to feel in the space, in my future space. And I listen to that soundtrack as I'm designing the space. So think of different ways that inspire you and use that to your benefit.
Through this journey, what is the one biggest mistake most homeowners do that you're trying to guide them through and not do? Either it was in your book or just from your experience.
I mean, some of it's really tactical stuff, like, not having a contingency budget for the things that come up during the project, to not thinking as much about the design before you jump into it.
And just trust your design when you are set on it. It's something that sets back the time schedule is redesigning. And it's sometimes overwhelming because you can design a beautiful space, but then you might go into a restaurant and see the most beautiful tile work that you've ever seen. And now you want this tile in your home. That is months worth of work sometimes, and it can really set back your overall schedule.
True. Well, you two, is there anything else you'd like to add and share with us today before you wrap up?
I don't think so. I mean, this was so much fun just chatting, and I feel like we could talk for many more hours.
I got lots of questions I want to ask, but we don't have the time.
Yeah.
But it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for both sharing your story with us today. And what started as a love, that was a first swipe, turned to shared, into filled with design, creativity, community, and courage. So congrats to you and much continued success. And I look forward to seeing the rug collection come out in June and maybe book number 2.
Thanks so much, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you. You take care and we'll chat soon.
Have the best time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. That's it for this episode of Beyond the Design. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe and share with your fellow design lovers. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep designing, and maybe take a chance on something unexpected.
Hi, you're listening to a Pod for Good Media Network podcast. We are a network that provides podcasting production services and a supportive community in which podcasters can thrive. If you're a podcaster local in the Tulsa area, we would love to have your show on the network. If you are interested in starting one, we would love to help you get started. Find us online at podforgoodmedia.com and fill out our Pod With Us form. Happy podcasting.